Let's talk about the thing with Social Security, because you and I are veterans of the 2005 George W. Bush assault on Social Security. This one's a little stealthier, it seems like, the way that they're doing it. I want to play this clip from last night. Now I can find my sheet here. I think it's, which one's the Social Security one?
7, I believe.
Oh, yeah, here it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think it's 7.
This is essentially, or no, I guess this part is Doge. We could do the Social Security
let's do 8.
part. Okay.
Because instead of saying Social Security is broke, there's nothing but IOUs here. It's just piece of paper, as if like there's stacks of $1 bills in file cabinets. George W. Bush was going around saying it. The way that Trump and it's Russell Vogt, it's the Heritage Foundation, it is Elon Musk, it's some of the wealthiest people in the world, and they want to cut Social Security because this has really always been sort of the fundamental building block of our government for the past 90 years, and this is the way they're going about doing it, by claiming it's just completely rife with fraud. Go ahead.
We're also identifying shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud in the Social Security program for our seniors, and that our seniors and people that we love rely on. Believe it or not, government databases list 4.7 million Social Security members from people aged 100 to 109 years old. It lists 3.6 million people from ages 110 to 119. I don't know any of them. I know some people that are rather elderly, but not quite that elderly. 3.47 million people from ages 120 to 129. 3.9 million people from ages 130 to 139. 3.5 million people from ages 140 to 149. And money is being paid to many of them, and we're searching right now. In fact, Pam, good luck. Good luck. You're going to find it. But a lot of money is paid out to people because it just keeps getting paid, and nobody does, and it really hurts Social Security and hurts our country. 1.3 million people from ages 150 to 159, and over 130,000 people, according to the Social Security databases, are age over 160 years old. We have a healthier country than I thought, Bobby.
So, a couple of things about this. I mean, it's the too long don't read is it's all just a lie. I mean, there's two things going on here. One is there are people who are in the database who are dead, but they do not get paid. Social Security does not pay out to people over the age of 115, regardless. B, the way that the Social Security computer systems were set up, the language that they used when they didn't have a date, it would default to 1875, like May 22nd, 1875 or something.
Right.
And so, and the thing is, they know this. Like, this is a story from 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yes, Wired reported it essentially. It's a default reference point that anybody that's done, like my fiance's, done data science and stuff like that, data analysis. That happens all the time. When they have incomplete information, they'll put a default setting in there. And this has been disproved now for weeks. But Trump a lot of the stuff that has already been fact checked about what Doge is finding, it seems like he just copy and pasted it and put it into his speech, regardless of the reporting about it. And it sounds like Musk wrote half of it.
Yep.
The point is, you spend that much time on Social Security, a thing that you're supposedly not going to cut.
Yeah.
You're cutting it, right? Like, I mean, they're cutting the Social Security Administration, employees, but this all seems like a prelude.
Right.
It's absolutely a prelude. And it's a really important point for us all to be aware of. They're using the rhetoric of fraud to preview their cuts to core benefits, right? They're basically trying to have their cake and eat it too. Say, we will not cut Social Security benefits, but of course we'll get rid of fraud. And then they put out fake fraud, and then they cut Social Security, and that's cutting benefits, right? David Day in the American Prospect, as you probably have already covered, did good reporting on how they're going to cut half of the Social Security Administration, which by definition means checks don't go out the door, people who are missing their checks don't have someone to call to get it back, seniors who are living paycheck to paycheck and literally might not be able to eat or get their medicine because they lost their check, won't be able to have a remedy. Like, this is going to do so much harm, and it's all so clear out in the open. So one point I do want to make, though, Sam, you mentioned the 2005 George W. Bush fight, and happy 20-year anniversary. We were also veterans of the 2013 Obama trying to cut Social Security fight.
Yes.
And back then, it was actually very hard, given a Democratic president, to get Democratic unity for the proposition that we will not cut Social Security benefits, right? It was actually absurdly hard. And I want to actually read to you two quotes from last night. One is from Maxwell Frost, one is from Melissa Slotkin. I want to see if you know the difference. So one said, "We are in the middle of a billionaire administrative takeover and coup of our country where they want to cut Medicaid, cut Social Security, cut Medicare, cut all the things that we fought for and earned in order to give tax breaks to billionaires and corporations." The other person said, "President Trump is trying to deliver an unprecedented giveaway to his billionaire friends. He's on the hunt to find trillions of dollars to pass along to the wealthiest in America. And to do that, he could very well come after your retirement, the Social Security, Medicare, VA benefits that you worked for your whole life. The president claims he won't, but Elon Musk just claimed that Social Security is the biggest Ponzi scheme of all time." Which of those is moderate, Alyssa Slotkin?
Well, I'm going to say the second.
You happen to be right.
I mean, it's just, you can tell with the language, but the point is,
yes,
they're more or less saying the same thing. And, and to be fair, like, well, I mean, this is something that we experienced also during George W. Bush, right? Like, the Democrats align up pretty well. Now, we don't have anybody who's going in and going like, well, if there's fraud, I want to get to it. Although there was some Democrats who were doing this early on with this Musk thing, which I think was very problematic, frankly, because if you start to concede their premise, it's much harder to tap the brakes once that's there.
Yep.
Like, we have processes to deal with fraud, right? We have inspector generals. They fired all the inspector generals. Like, we have processes to do audits. We have processes, even if we decide that we don't think it's right for the American public to provide, ready-made nutrition packets to starving children. If we decide that we don't want to engage in that kind of behavior, we have a system in place to actually have that debate publicly and democratically, and that is called Congress can debate it. So the Republicans right now, if they want to cut aid to starving children around the globe because, how much they love life, they can bring that up as a bill and they can vote on it. But this is the way they're going. It's all about the fake fraud. And that's why they keep putting up fake fraud numbers, and then they have to keep taking them down.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. And, it seems pretty clear to me that there's a high enough probability chance that the end game here is just massive self-enrichment of the billionaires who will just flood the zone in the next election and just buy their way to power, combined with their misinformation, doing the same thing, right? Like, there was some conversation on MSNBC yesterday being like, Lawrence O'Donnell made an inaccurate statement where he's like, the best way you know that Trump is not planning to run for a third term is that he's doing all this unpopular stuff. And it's like, well, or there's not going to be a fair election, and there's going to, Elon Musk will have hundreds of billions of dollars that he could flood the zone with. And, it's really depressing to see what's going on. And that's why, this is one of the more tender moments that we will have the next couple of years, where Republicans in Congress are kind of willing to go along until they get public pushback back home. And it can't just be from San Francisco. It has to be, us doing the work to expedite veterans, Trump voters, others, just regular people who are not seen as overly political, speaking out. And that's, I think, something that we all can contribute to as activists.
Do you think that the Democrats understand why what O'Donnell said was wrong? Because it seems to me, everybody thought that budget resolution was not going to pass. There was nobody out there saying that they were going to be able to get that type of Republican discipline for that budget resolution. They have a 1 or 2 vote margin, and it did. And I think, do you think that there is an awareness on Capitol Hill now that there's a slightly but very important different incentive structure with the Republicans in that, if I'm a frontline Republican in New York or in California, I'm worried about the general election. And so I gotta, but with the unlimited money, literally unlimited money that Elon Musk has, all of a sudden their primary becomes a far more disciplining force than the prospect of how are they going to deal with the general, because they won't get to the general if they don't. I mean, is it your sense that Democratic lawmakers have any sense of that? Maybe the incentive structure has changed for Republicans?
God, that's a good question. Do they have a sense that it changed? Again, I think those who get it do. Does Chuck Schumer, do Hakeem Jeffries fully get that incentive structure? I'm not sure, but it is really important to just even go deeper on what you're saying and connect some dots here. So, what is part of the significance of Trump kicking Zelensky out of the White House? Right? It's a signal to every other world leader: you cross me, I will embarrass you on the world stage. Right? There was apparently, I just heard this yesterday, there was somebody in the White House saying maybe we should be less tough on Zelensky. And that person's now kind of frozen out of the inner circle in the White House, right? There's this whack-a-mole thing where the first person to put their head up gets whacked so hard, everybody keeps their head down. And now go back to Congress. Nobody wants to be the first. Even the crazies who before would just, lambast against their own party. Nobody wants Elon Musk to write an unlimited check, which he can do with no consequence to his bank account against them. What will it take, right? Fast forward to a time where the public pushback is so hard that 30 of them can actually step forward together and say to Mike Johnson, we cannot vote for this bill, right? That's what has to happen. It can't be one courageous Republican. I don't know that we get there, but if we're going to get there, we have to do things to expedite ourselves on that timeline.
But the logic of those 30, let's say 5 years ago or whatever, pick a date in the past, was they can't take out all 30 of us. Except for now, the difference between Elon Musk providing unlimited funds for one primary and the difference between that and Elon Musk providing unlimited funds for 30 primaries is like you or I deciding between, a Land's End sweater or a J. Crew sweater, right? It's meaningless to him. He just spent a minimum of $300 million, a minimum that we know of, and
his net worth has increased.
Couldn't have been a better investment. He could spend that 5 times over, and it still would be an incredible, one of the best investments in the world, in history, in terms of how much money he's made. So, I don't even know if we're at that 30 point yet.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can see the point. He has unlimited money. I make that point. It is a lot easier to take out one person than 30 people on a logistical level. Yep. Making the ads and just having operatives do the stuff.
There's only so many resources in which you can plow that kind of money into, in terms of human abilities too.
Yeah. Now again, you can go back and forth. Oh, they can use AI and make ads that way and just do it at scale, and maybe that's true, but let's put it this way. I'd rather have 30 sticking up than 1 sticking up at this point. Right. So my question is just, how can we increase the pain on these Republicans? And the thing that pops into my head over and over again is show them proof points that their own voters who voted for Trump, this is not the direction they were trying to go. I'm open to other stuff. Again, I don't think there's one silver bullet. It's just in this moment, what is effective? Another thing that we're thinking about a lot, we do a lot of polling, and we've been doing months-long polling almost every 2 weeks with Data for Progress on Doge, and just how to make the argument against Musk. And is it that he's stealing from you, wants to take your Social Security, give tax cuts to billionaires? Is it that the Constitution gives Congress certain powers and he's trying to steal these powers from the people? Spoiler alert, they're both pretty effective. There's lots of versions of that. Is it that they're hurting your public safety, cutting things like aviation and clean water and stuff like that? Also effective. But as we're doing this, there's a question in my mind of how much is Elon Musk kind of a heat shield for Trump, absorbing the blows and actually not having it transfer to him, versus kind of through osmosis transferring that unpopularity to Trump. And that's actually going to be the subject of our polling this weekend. Okay. We can do some A/B testing to see if we only make the argument against Musk, and they don't hear Trump's name, does Trump's popularity take a hit by the end of the poll? We'll have results on that soon.
I would also argue that Trump has been a heat shield for Republicans for 9 years.
Right.
And it is incumbent upon, when Joe Biden is out there saying, MAGA extremists, and Kamala Harris is going around with, Republican never Trumpers, all they're saying is Trump is the change agent. He is not part of the establishment. In fact, we got Republicans and Democrats right here, and also making it much harder to hold Republicans to account for Donald Trump. We've just said, the weak link in this sort of it's not Elon Musk. He doesn't care. And Donald Trump, I don't think he cares either, because he's okay, I'm maybe unpopular. If I'm not president for the next term, I can't go to jail. That's already, that's a foregone conclusion. I'm making money hand over fist in a way that he's probably never made in his entire life at this point, between his meme coins and every scam that they've got going. I'm convinced this whole tariff thing is just really just some type of kickback scheme or pump and dump. So the only people who really have a vulnerability are those 30 some odd Republican lawmakers. And if you don't say this is the Republicans doing this, how does Elon Musk not function, and how does Donald Trump not function as a heat shield?
Yep. And therefore it's significant that all the Republicans voted for that budget, right? Because they're finally on the record. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was a game changer. I think there's been two game-changing moments, at least in the last couple of months. One is the funding freeze. That was a galvanizing moment. Remember, until that moment, it was all hypothetical. There were a lot of people not being full-throated on our side. And the second that literally every program was threatened, whether you're a school board member or a mayor or a senator, you have something locally that's popular that you can point to. And that's when we started seeing local events back home with real people telling their stories. And that's just kind of extended through all the DOJ stuff where they're cutting everything. But that left a vulnerability where Republicans in Congress had deniability. And this past week, when they voted for the budget that would kind of ensconce that stuff into law, that gives that puts a target on every Republican's back politically in terms of being able to, be subject to local press events back home, saying they're cutting veterans, healthcare, cutting cancer research for kids. And, we need to take advantage of that opportunity. Well,
Adam, what's our version of the Laken Riley Act? What is our version of basically taking the name of, say, a veteran, a third of the federal workers that I think have been fired are veterans, or it's a third of the federal workforce. They are veterans, right? I know that they're attacking the VA soon. Can the Democrats sponsor a damn bill with the name of a federal worker, or somebody say that died because they didn't have access to health care coverage? Or how about a bill that talks about the FAA deregulation, call it President Plane Crash? Is it Jeffries that's standing in the way of some of these more grandstanding bills that would at the very least make it look like they're standing on the floor of the House? I know maybe the time for the debate is not immediate, but and doing politics, just do a grandstanding bill and make it and tie Trump to the plane crashes or something like that.
I love that. Emma, you just gave me homework for the next week. That is such a great idea. So I'll give a couple examples of things that could fit.
Well, I just think you shouldn't do anything right now. Just wait.
Don't do anything.
He'll wait. Just wait. Give him 30 days.
One thing we should do today is name a bill after the 13-year-old kid who was a cancer survivor who was held up by Trump in the State of the Union last night.
Yeah.
And just name a bill to restore funding to NIH and other cancer research things named after him, right? Like the fact that they're using that against us is so mind-boggling, and we should just flip that right away. You know, your FAA thing, pick somebody involved with that. You know, I saw a video online recently of some veterans affairs person, like you know, the VA official in some Midwestern state who was fired. He called his supervisor. The supervisor wasn't aware that he was fired. They called the supervisor. They weren't aware. And so like this guy trying to help veterans who's being cut for no reason, like name a bill after him. It does seem like for every one of these things, we should just find a real person, name a bill. That's really smart. So,
Adam Green, we will check on your progress with your homework over the next week, and we'll have you back, and we'll grade your work. Co-founder Progressive Change Campaign Committee. Where can people find out more? boldprogressives.org?
boldprogressives.org to be looped into our activism.
All right.
Thanks,
Adam. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.